So I don't normally do these kinds of things because I'm just not like a YouTube person or anything like that. But given Druck and the storyline and all the amazing things that have been happening, I sort of really wanted to just talk a little bit about it. I have no idea if anybody's going to watch this or if anybody's going to care, but I just had like a few things that I wanted to say. Um, Excuse the echo. I had to go to one of our offices because it's a little easier to film in here. And if I keep looking down, it's because I have a computer right in front of me. Um, I want to preface everything I'm going to say with the fact that I'm not transgender. I'm a cisgendered female. I've got no lived experience as to what it's like being trans. The only thing I do have is many friends who have gone through this sort of experience before, and I've seen many friends from the beginning of their transition to the end, and all the things that they have had to go through. In addition to that, my academic specialty happens to be in gender and sexuality. So everything I do is based on masculinity, femininity, gender, male, female, violence, LGBT issues, all of that. But what I do is I work in the wider scope of religious studies. So most of the stuff I do is garnered around changing narratives that we've been told all of our lives, that religion says this isn't, that being gay is wrong, and I do my very best to sort of counter argue all of these things that are being thrown all over the world to give people new ways of thinking. With that being said, I want to just talk about the last three clips. So when Mateo finds David, when they make love for the first time, and then when they wake up. So first things first, what does this TV show and this series mean for the LGBT community and for the world? Quite frankly, it means change. It means genuine, positive change that this world needs desperately and doesn't think it's ready for, but actually it is. It just needs to open its eyes and see that, trans people exist, bi people exist, intersex people exist, gender non-binary people exist, and we all have a place in this world, and we all fit, and we all belong, and we all do deserve to be loved. I keep saying that I really wish I had something like this when I was the age that these people are portraying. I actually think that Lucas and Michelangelo are maybe a little bit older than their characters, but not by much. For me, as an almost 30-year-old, we didn't have this. We had TV shows like Ellen DeGeneres, we had Queer as Folk, and we had the L Word. I didn't get into the L Word, but I do know it was a fairly great show. I did watch Queer as Folk, but the issue with that is there were no trans people, there were no bisexual people, there weren't really depictions of gender non-binary people. They had one lesbian couple, and basically the rest of the show revolved around gay men in their 30s. Fine. But that narrative doesn't suit everybody else. It didn't suit me when I was in high school because I couldn't relate to somebody who was living 15 years older than me. Granted, they did do an HIV storyline, which was phenomenal. But I feel like now with Scum and with Druck, including a transgender character or characters with mental illness, this is doing all the work that had needed to have been done decades ago. So the first clip with Mateo going to find David. I'm going to try to play it really low because I don't want to muck up the sound.
Wenn das Schicksal auf unserer Seite gewesen, hätte ich dich mitgenommen. Vergiss es nicht.
I think the thing that got me really about David saying that, you know, it's not always bad to be alone because we're all alone is really, really heartbreaking, and is a testament to how, you know, what it feels like to live in the closet and what it feels like to sort of live in a world that doesn't necessarily accept you or is open to who you are. And I really feel like there are many ways you can get comfortable being in the closet. I mean, myself, I didn't come out till I was 26, and I was super comfortable in the closet because it was the only thing I knew. And I didn't realize that the moment I came out was the moment my life instantly got better. So I really, really feel very intensely about, you know, this feeling of loneliness. And I think it's hugely important, not only in this series, but in the others.
Ist dein Scheiß Ernst? Was ist los? Ich kann das nicht mehr. Die haben mich behandelt wie den letzten Dreck und es wurde immer schlimmer und ich konnte nicht mehr schlafen und wurde einfach nur weg.
Oh, what a talented young man. Like, what a talented young man. Like, it's just I'm gonna try not to cry. It's just really heartbreaking to sit here and listen to a story and know that it doesn't have to be this way. Like, it doesn't. Like, he or anybody else doesn't deserve to suffer and feel like they're the lowest piece of filth on the planet. Like, nobody deserves to feel like that. And you can really feel that. And it's like the first time I was watching it, I was like, man, I'm like right there with them. And you feel it because, like, I'm looking at his eyes right now and he's looking up at Mateo, and Mateo's telling him how amazing he is. And you just look at his eyes and you're like, you see the pain, but you also see the amount of love that they have for each other. And that's massively important. I've watched these clips probably about 40 times by now, so I know them pretty well. I really like that this series did the "You're Not Alone Anymore," but they did it in their own way. Because one of my favorite parts is, especially in the France version, when Lucas goes and finds Elliot, and like you have that music cue that happens when, you know, the music suddenly goes full stop, and then he says, "You're not alone anymore." Like, hands down, one of my favorite music cues in all of TV. With this one being my second favorite, or first favorite, I don't know, it's up there. But like, you know, hearing him say, "I love you too," and then all of a sudden you get Hosier coming in with "Take Me to Church." Like, talk about, boom, we're making a statement. This is what it is, that a cisgendered man can love a trans man, and it's normal. It's completely fine. Everything is all right with the world. And that is massive. And, they're saying we're not going to subscribe to the old narratives and the old ways of thinking anymore. And we're going to do it differently. And we're going to do it our way. And that is powerful. Something about the second clip that I feel is really important is I read on Twitter back a few weeks ago, right before David actually came out to Mateo, and somebody had said something to the effect of, okay, they're doing a transgender storyline, but are they really going to show the implications of what it's like dating somebody who is trans, and sort of the experience? And again, I don't know what that experience is, but they really seem to think that Druck was going to make sort of this, fluffy story, and they were going to make it all seem happy, but they weren't actually going to show a sex scene or two people openly talking about transitioning or what testosterone injections are and anything like that. And I'm sitting there, I'm reading it, and I'm just like, well, first of all, if they're already doing this storyline, they're going to do it justice, and they're going to go as far as they can go. They're going to push the envelope because that's what Scum does. So I wasn't really worried about that. I was really worried about them not showing a binder, because that's a part of sort of like the experience a trans man has. I have a friend who's currently transitioning now. They're non-binary, but they're transitioning. And we talk a lot about what it's like for them to wear a binder, and sort of how they can be really painful and everything to wear. And I give them huge amounts of respect and kudos for doing that and being open and honest about what it's like. And I was so unbelievably happy that they showed it, because it's realistic. It's there. It's like we have David and Lucas, the actor, wearing a binder. That's honest. That's what it's like. And it's right there. And it's important. And it shows that, again, it normalizes it. And I hate the word normal. But it kind of just says, you know what, this is what it's like. We're going to be honest about it. And we are going to go there. So to the people on Twitter who are worried, you needn't to worry anymore. I'm sure they're going to keep going. And huge props to Lucas for being able to actually open a door while making out with another human being. I wouldn't be able to do that. I'd like to fast forward a little bit. And I love the realistic portrayals of their bodies. Like, they look like teenagers, not like, 25, 26-year-old people playing high school students like we see in many TV shows. Some I will not name. Glee. And I like that they say that they're nervous, because it's true. And it's not anything to do with gender specifically. It's just to do with the fact that you're with somebody that you really love and you really care about for the first time. And that's what it's like. And that sort of nervousness always exists. And that's a universal thing. And I'm glad that they included that. And I love that Mateo just like lightly puts his chin right on David's heart. Cutest smile ever.
a shadow in our way. Story we can tell another time. But if this was love,
I was actively crying when I first watched this last night.
Always mine, always mine. I told you to go left and I went right. Oh, I told you that I loved you. Couldn't tell I was lying. 'Cause I put a
Even more important is this show is giving Lucas a sexuality. And what I mean by that, in the actual definition of sexuality, is one's ability to show and enact and participate in their own sexual desires. That's all sexuality is, which is where we get sexual orientation from for people who are attracted to the same sex. So they're giving him a sexuality, they're giving him a sort of a sexual identity, but they're not going to the point of fetishizing it, which is what a lot of people do, and which is what a lot of industry stories and some certain, I won't say porn does. They can sort of easily fetishize things. But here, it's simple, it's beautiful, they're massively in love, just like the little bits of like, the kissing and the fact that Mateo never really had to get there, right? So like, I know we saw that little scene way back, I think in episode 7, I can't remember, where Mateo's looking up transgender people and the difference between the person you are inside versus the body you have. And I really felt like that he never really had to get there. Like he never had to sort of, accept that David is trans because he loved him so much and he loves him so much. So I sort of feel like, and I like that they did show it sort of like him just processing a little bit. And maybe that is for many, many people on the planet, that's as easy as it is. And it's simple and it's beautiful. And I like that, they're kind of like under the covers and everything. It is so, so sweet and so beautiful and very tastefully done. And I like that they're owning that trans people do have a sexual identity, that they are sexual beings, and that just because you have a cisgendered person with a trans person, it doesn't change anything about either one of their sexualities. They're both gay men. And that's simple. I hope some of this is making sense and I'm not boring you. The wake up scene. Oh, damn it. I really like that Mateo's asking David how long he's known, and he's not being intrusive about it. Again, going back to that thing I heard on Twitter, is that people think that they weren't going to discuss it. And it's really beautifully played out here. And he's just, like, how long have you known? A simple question, and honestly, people who are LGB get asked that all the time. Like, it's just a question. It's just a normal question. And I'm glad that they're showing that it's a normal question. And I like that he Googled his symptoms. At least that's what the translation says. I actually Googled bisexuality at one point because I was told there was no such thing as being bisexual. And then I had to either choose to be a lesbian or to be straight, which is part of the reason why it took me so long to come out and why I attempted suicide in my early 20s, is because I thought I had to be one thing or the other. And it wasn't until after that I started like Googling and started researching for myself, and I really found my identity, similar to David's character. And I don't know if anybody else notices this, and I don't know if it's just me, but if you look at David's face from like the beginning to here, and even to like the recent photos we've seen of him, his face is changing. Just like my friend's Chase's face is changing really rather rapidly, and it's really really cool. His face is sort of um, the structure is changing, and he's going to continue to change the longer that he takes testosterone and gets further into his transition. And it's really really beautiful to see because he's an absolutely gorgeous human being as well. Michelangelo is absolutely gorgeous as well. And I like that when he's saying he definitely wants to have top surgery, but he's not sure about bottom surgery. One thing is not all trans people decide to go with GRS or gender reassignment surgery. Many people feel like they don't need to. Some people do. It's their decision, and it's nobody else's business unless they want you to know. So the fact that Mateo says that, after David asks, is that bad if I don't have bottom surgery? And Mateo says, you're perfect just the way you are. That is huge. Again, like, he is perfect the way he is. And I think he's been waiting his entire life for somebody to tell him that he's perfect just the way he is. And it's really great that, Mateo can come along and just sort of love the pieces back together, just the same that David loves all of Mateo's pieces back together. Again, this is a human story. It's not about gender. It's not about sexuality necessarily. It's about humans and our existence on this planet, and really making sure that the narrative that trans people are unusual or can't be in relationships or can't be in love or can't have sex really sort of dissipates. Sorry, my camera's lagging. But anyways, I really, really have absolutely loved every bit of this. I know it's really kind of sucked for a few weeks because they weren't communicating with each other. And I'm sitting here screaming at my computer going, for the love of God, if you would just talk to each other, this could have been solved by now. Like, you guys could have had this moment of happiness. But I really feel like they both individually needed to go through what they needed to go through. Again, we didn't get to see David's side of that because this was Mateo's season. But, when he really broke down and really said all the stuff that has happened to him, you can sort of just see that he immediately becomes lighter, like, and less bogged down with it. Because at the end of this latest clip we have, you sort of see him and he's got like this really, really amazing glow to him, and you can just see the sort of relief, and that's just all anybody could ever ask for. And that's all he asked for, was just to be accepted and to be loved. And I don't know. I'm sort of immersed in this culture of living in the margins in a really unusual way since I'm an academic and since I've been studying this for a decade now. I don't always get to enjoy sort of like the beauty behind things because I'm always analyzing it and always sort of like going, all right, well, where's this cultural reference coming from, and how do we do this and how do we do that? The whole basis for transphobia lies in the same basis against for people being homophobic. It all comes back to this whole concept of heteronormativity. And heteronormativity has been around since the biblical era, where men and women are put into these gendered boxes, and they have to fit within these boxes, where women are the passive people who have to be ready and willing whenever a man wants to have sex with them, to be penetrated, because men are dominant. And men have to be that dominant exerting of power type people all the time. Like there's no sort of relief from it. So when you decide to live your true self, and I do 100% believe you are born who you are. I know I was born bisexual. I know people are born gay, lesbian, transgender, all of it. I don't have any qualms about that. What I do take issue with is people telling other people that it's a lifestyle choice. David being trans isn't a lifestyle choice. It's not. Mateo being gay, not a lifestyle choice. Same with Isak and Evan being, with Evan being bipolar, not a lifestyle choice. He was just born that way. And we've kind of gotten in this culture of saying, well, you have to be male or female, you have to be gay or straight, you have to be lesbian or straight. You can't float in between the margins because it sort of weirds people out. Well, I'm saying let's weird people out. Let's continue to weird people out and just stand in the glory of who you are, and the rest of the world will show up. I live about a mile from one of the most prestigious seats within the Church of England. I live right down from the Archbishop of Canterbury, who vehemently is against LGBT people. He's very vocal about his disagreement with same-sex marriage and everything. And every time I go to the cathedral and I walk in, it's just this really overwhelming experience that you're there, but you're not necessarily welcomed there, just because you are who you are. And we have massive pride every year. There's like a massive pride flag that's going to go up in June over all of the towers and everything. And it's really beautiful. And the fact that we live right here where this person just disagrees vehemently with who people are is sort of an interesting experience. And I really think that the more we see TV shows like this come out, the less the rhetoric people, the less impact the rhetoric people like the Archbishop of Canterbury is going to have. It's going to have less impact. And it's going to start to be where our voices and our authenticity and our love for one another is going to overshadow all of that, and to the point where you won't be able to hear those voices of negativity anymore. And this is where we start. Like, we started several years ago with the original Scum, but this is where we start to make change. And I'm going to say it is our responsibility to continue. It's our responsibility to educate ourselves. It's our responsibility to get this story out there, to get Isak and Evan's story, to get Marty and Nico's and Lucas and Elliot's. And I haven't watched the one with the two girls yet. Unfortunately, I'm a little behind. Same with David and Mateo's story. Like, we need to get all of these narratives out there in the world to show that, all we're trying to do is just live our lives and be happy and be free and be true and be authentic. Nothing more and nothing less. So it is our responsibility, just as it's a responsibility of our advocates in the straight community, to stand with us and to fight with us and to show that, what, it doesn't matter. We're going to love, and we're going to love hard. But I just want everybody out there watching this who still made it to this point in the video. I've been talking for a long time. If you are in the closet, or you're dealing with your gender identity or your sexual identity or anything like that, and you're really not sure, please, 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 please reach out to somebody. Like, you can reach out to me, like on Twitter or on YouTube. I will happily listen. You don't need to be alone. The closet's a very lonely place. It doesn't have to be that way. and know that you have an entire community who has your back. We, like LGBT people, have each other's backs, and we fight for one another. We've been doing it since, well, Stonewall in America, for me being an American. Like, and we're standing on the backs of all those people, and we need to be there so other people can rise up and live in authenticity. So I hope that you all know that this is the beginning for you to live your life, and that's all that matters. And thankfully, this series and the other series are giving people a voice who otherwise wouldn't have been given a voice. And you just have to promise yourself, promise me, promise your brother, sister, friends, whatever, that you are going to live your authentic self. And I trust you. And I mean, I promise you that somebody will listen, and somebody will reach back, and somebody will be there and pick you up and make you feel so loved. But anyways, I'm going to end this very long video. If anybody wants like an interesting book to read, since I do religious studies, there's a really interesting book called Transgender, Intersex, and Biblical Interpretations that really breaks down to the root of why people are transphobic and how it happened. I haven't read all of it yet, but if you want a way to educate yourselves, here's another way. And it's a really well-written book so far. But I hope you made it this far. Sorry. And I wish you all a very happy Sunday.